from the Raptor Resource Project. First, let's welcome in Amy Ries. Amy, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's so much fun to see all three eaglets in Trempealeau.
Absolutely. And we're also joined by John Howe, who's the director of the Raptor Resource Project. John, thanks for being here today.
Hey, you're welcome. Great to be here.
And again, this is a bald eagle play-by-play. We'll look at live footage of bald eagles through the Raptor Resource cams on Exploded.org. We'll describe what we see in their behavior and biology of the birds, maybe examine some of the recent events seen on the cams, including some of the non-eagle cams. And we also want to answer some questions that were submitted in advance. So please submit your questions for future Bald Eagle play-by-plays through the Ask Your Bald Eagle question form. You can find that by asking a moderator for the link to it in the chat. This is what that webpage looks like. And thanks to everybody who sent in their questions so far. We probably don't have time to answer them all, but I do look at each and every one of them, and we'll try to get to as many of them during the program as we can today. So we're looking at the Trempealeau eagles right now, and Mrs. T feeding her three eaglets in that nest. We're going to be talking a lot about these birds because this has been a center of activity for the Raptor Resource cams recently. But before we get into the nitty-gritty details of this nest, let me introduce you to the suite of cams that we have available to us to talk about today. So if you're curious about the location of Exploded.org's cameras in partnership with the Raptor Resource Project, let's take a look at their locations right now. We are focusing on the upper Mississippi region of Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. The Decorah North Bald Eagle Nest is located on private property north of Decorah, Iowa. Heading farther north, we watch a peregrine falcon eyrie at Great Spirit Bluff on the Minnesota side of the river. The Mississippi Flyway Cam sits near the river's floodplain within the upper Mississippi National Fish and Wildlife Refuge. And then staying on the Wisconsin side, the Trempealeau eagles make their home on private property near Trempealeau, Wisconsin. And finally, the Castle Rock, Castle Rock is home to a peregrine falcon eyrie as well. And there's been activity at all of these places over the past couple of weeks. But the big, I think, event for most everybody who's a Raptor Resource fan on Explode.org has been the hatching of all three eggs on the Trempealeau nest. And John, we were hoping to see some feeding happening live on camera, and we're getting our wish granted.
Yeah, we're seeing this is perfect. We're getting that right now. I think there's some kind of furry mammal that came in there, and we're seeing, I think, Miss T feeding TE3 right now, and I just saw our newest hatch just recently. There we go again. TE5 kind of flopping back and forth and trying to get its bearings there. So just basically drying out. We can see some of the down, and we can see a foot there kind of rolling around. Looks healthy. This is really a very important time frame for TE5, and that is just, is it going to be able to get up in competition with the other two siblings and get some food, in the next day or two while it needs it.
And Amy, I think we can see, even though these eaglets are only separated in age by a few days based on their hatch date, I think we can see quite a significant difference in body size and then also in coordination between the oldest eaglet in this nest and TE5, who's the youngest. So with those newly hatched chicks like TE5 who just came out of the egg, what was it, yesterday? What's that process like for it to gain coordination and be able to feed or just grab food from mom or dad?
We'll generally see improvement, I would say maybe by the second day. Food is an incredible motivator, really for anything, but especially for birds of prey. So once it understands where food comes from more or less and gets stronger, like I said, probably by the end of the second day, we'll see a real improvement in its ability to hold its head up and receive bites of food. Like you can see TE3 now is practically an old hand. It won't be long till TE5 is the same way.
We did have an audience question that had to do with food and the types of food more specifically. It was about young eaglets, and it came from Donna, and Donna wrote in, how long can the eaglets go without food? Also, do you guys ever take fish, rabbits, or mice out for them if it gets too urgent?
John, you want to take
Yeah,
that
I
one?
guess. Yeah, yeah. So I think it's variable as far as how long they can go without food. For instance, if we're looking at TE3 there, I saw a front shot of TE3 and did have a visibly full crop or close to full crop. So with that food there, they are going to be growing very fast in the first week. But there's enough food that TE3 has received, being the first eaglet to hatch, that I would guess that it could go at least for 3 to 4 days, in as long as it gets food and something in that time period. Now with freshly hatched TE5, I think what we've typically seen is usually they're getting fed within the second day, and even just liquid, you can see on Mrs. T's beak, you can see some kind of looking like mucousy saliva coming down along with the food bites that she's feeding the TE3. And whatever it can be, liquid or solid or whatever those eaglets get, anything is nourishment to them. So as far as how long they can go, I'd say it depends on how much they've gotten for food so far, and then weather is actually probably a pretty big factor too. Uh, if this was a situation where we had a storm coming in and the parents were incubating and really hunkering down and there were few feeding events, we could see many fewer opportunities for feeding, and that also could really be detrimental for an eaglet that's not getting fed. If they don't have as many opportunities to get that first feeding in the first 2 or 3 days, weather can be a significant factor too.
Amy, right now we're seeing just two of the eaglets' heads popping up. So the oldest chick in the nest and the youngest chick in the nest. We're not seeing the middle child in there right now. Could that just indicate that uh, TE4 is probably full and maybe had a good feeding earlier in the day?
It absolutely could be full, although they'll generally compete for food when it's there. But it could be in what we call a food coma, right? I also
Mm-hmm.
didn't see if there was bonking interaction earlier. So, if you watch, you know that they establish a pecking order, and that starts pretty early. So that could also be part of it. Maybe it ate a lot. Maybe it's not really motivated to get up. Maybe TE3 has started enforcing that pecking order because TE3 wants to be at the front of the food line. All the eaglets do.
Yeah, and I'm just looking through, we get such great notes and information from cam operators, and I'm just checking back through the day here, and there were several feedings that did reach TE4, evacuation, poop chute, and just some crop drop motion, trying to move food from crop down into stomach earlier today. So probably just in catch up mode, food coma, something like that.
And if you watch the Eagles and you get worried about it, because you're not necessarily going to see all the feeding, look for two things. Look to see if they have a swollen crop. It can be a little harder to see at this age, but if you look for it, you'll generally see it. If they have a swollen crop and if they're pooping, they're good. They're getting food.
There is a sibling rivalry that happens, among clutches of eaglets and many other species of birds, right? And somebody was wondering a little bit about that. Kathleen wrote in and is asking, what are the odds of eaglet survival in a nest of 3 that hatch? Are the odds different from being like the firstborn or the second or the third? And, what about that oldest chick? Does the oldest chick have better odds?
I don't know that we know if the oldest chick has better odds. I haven't seen that. I can tell you that in 3 egg nests, percentage of survival rate is about 79%. So 83% of the eggs hatch, 79% of the eaglets will fledge. So in 3 egg nests, it's really high. It's pretty high in all nests, weirdly enough, except 1 egg nest. So competition is part of the eagle way of life. It's important for their growth and development and eventual socialization, right? And most of them tend to survive it, even though we're like, no, stop, feed the little one.
Yeah. Looking back at the history, I'm remembering at the North Nest when we had 3 eaglets, and I'm thinking it was 2016 or 2017, way back. But that is a nest that I remember that year. It didn't look like we had as much food coming in, and it was very interesting to notice how the youngest eaglet was finding ways to move around because there was that pecking order, and the oldest eaglet there was really conditioning the others to stand down, if you want to call it that, when mealtime came. And I just remember both the other 2 younger eaglets learning how to kind of move around to the back around the parent and stick their head up underneath through the legs to reach for food without getting head bonked or hammered by the oldest one. So that conditioning by the oldest eaglet can really drive some of the behaviors at feeding time. When food is plentiful, really what it's great to see is that the oldest or the strongest one who's able to get that head up first and get food will get full, and it will rest and sleep, and then that gives an opportunity for the others that are waiting that have not gotten fed yet.
Well, and you're totally right. I believe it was 2016 was the first year we watched the North Nest, and we absolutely saw that. And it's part of the suite of what we call eagle table manners, right? So you've got hissing, mantling, stealing, right? All of that are things the eaglets do in the nest, but it's also stuff that they'll do after they fledge and then when they disperse, because we see that, among other things, along the Mississippi River with the Mississippi Flyway Camp. So eagle table manners are learned early in life, right?
For sure.
We're hearing Mrs. T right now vocalizing, maybe tracking something that's moving in the sky right now. John, what might she be reacting to that we can't see on the camera right now?
Yeah, it's this specific area. We haven't shown a lot of views here lately. We can and will probably off season more, and once the eaglets are a little bit more stable and older. But looking straight out, you see the main branch there, that the offshoot branch that eagles perched on. In that direction, there's a island in the middle of the Mississippi, the first barrier island, and there's a fairly large eagle nest right over there. And then over off to the right, where the other branch is, at an angle on the Minnesota side, there's another eagle nest over there. So definitely there's plenty of raptor activity going on there. So could possibly be checking and watching activity, or also possibly noticing that Mr. T is close by and, calling him in for duty or her management of the eaglets. So it could be either of those.
There's also a hill behind us, so we can't see it. It would be directly behind us. And we've seen turkey vultures and other raptors kettling and thermal soaring there. And I've seen a fair amount of turkey vultures at once. So you don't usually get upset about turkey vultures, but there might be something back there too.
Right, and around the corner, we know, not necessarily in sight from here, there's also peregrine falcons, right?
Yeah.
We had so an adult just landed back at the nest. I'm wondering if this is the mother or the father here.
It
I'm
still
not that
looks
great
like
at it.
this. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Long beak, pronounced brow ridge. That looks like it probably is Mrs. T again. If I'm thinking.
And I'm seeing what uh, you were mentioning earlier about full crops on that eaglet that's sort of like higher up on the nest and just looking at that food, but
Yeah.
maybe not grabbing at it as enthusiastically as it had earlier. You just see that like that bulge right below its neck.
Right, right. So now we're looking at some opportunities for that's either TE4 or TE5 right behind that just got a bite.
I think that's 4, but I'd like to see the other one sit up to be absolutely positive about that.
Yeah, yeah, that looks like it could be TE4 that just got a bite, and TE5 is resting again. But TE3 is kind of rejecting food right now. Sorry, I'm waiting for dessert.
Full? We're finding out.
Yeah, well, there's TE5 just hopefully resting against the others.
And, you know, we kind of pretend
really,
we're all dispassionate about this, but we're like all the rest of you, like, come on, Eagles, go, come on, feed the little one.
yeah, and we're not even looking at a blizzard or a snowstorm here right now, you know, kind of narrowing that window. So it really is, after years of watching this or even just jumping in, I've always found it interesting. You got that feeling of, you know, with kids and with humans and with siblings, it's always everybody gets their share. And in the wild, it is not that way. It's whichever beak is up there and whichever one is available first gets that. It's not like the parents are saying, you got some and you didn't, so I'm gonna move over and give you some. And that's probably one of the hardest things to watch with eagles and other raptors is watching that, you know, the one who can get there and get the food is the one who gets the food.
Oh, did we get a bite in?
It looked real close, but I wasn't sure if it was number 4 or number 5. But it looks like number 5 is just on the cusp of getting that
number
first
4. Yeah, number 5's in the back there. We'll see. It's kind of a big bite for a brand new hatched eaglet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I thought TE5 got a tiny little bite off the side when TE4 grabbed it, but I am not certain that that's what I saw.
Hopefully it did.
One thing that's interesting, it seems like the parent eagles are fairly adept at understanding how big of a piece of food their offspring can handle, depending on their age. Is that something that you've also noticed, or am I just off base there?
They
Definitely.
yeah.
Go ahead, Amy.
They have really, really sensitive tongues and beaks. John, I think it was maybe the second or third year you were with us, you were absolutely fascinated with it, so we cut some videos of it because it is just really interesting to watch how they seem to understand what their young need, and we'll see that progress too. So they're still getting pretty small bites, and they're almost 100% digestible. They can't really deal with bone or scales or fur yet, but that, again, that's going to change very, very quickly.
Yeah, and it looks like there's been a switch over to fish now from whatever mammal that was. So I don't know if when she returned, she brought some fish with her, or if that was just a piece that was in the nest. But the fish seemed to be a little bit more soft and malleable, and a lot easier for the youngest eaglets to get in their mouth, or their beaks, I should say.
John, there was a fish on the nest a couple days ago. I don't know if you saw it or not. I couldn't decide if it was a carp or if it was a big head buffalo. Did you see that? It was giant.
Yeah, I think it was probably buffalo or red horse. I'd have to see a picture of it. But
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I think number five just got a piece of food. So success there. I think it's just part of those growing pains. I mean, this is one of the things that's so fun to watch with young birds, especially. They develop so rapidly. And Amy, you and I have talked about this before, but like after a week of growth, I mean, they are substantially bigger than they were
Yeah.
when they hatch. It's kind of amazing how fast they grow.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely. They have some of the fastest growth rates of any North American bird, possibly the fastest growth rate. So it's really incredible. I'm trying to remember if they double their size. Um, sorry, you would think I would just have this stuffed in my brain right now. But yeah, they're growing enormously quickly. They will be around a pound at week's end.
Maybe another.
fivefold increase in 7 days. So first
Yeah, that's
week,
crazy.
that's quite a bit from about what little over 3 ounces when they first hatch.
Yep, yep.
Just amazing. And it looks like maybe Mrs. T is working over another semi-unidentified food object. I think that's one of the Eagle Camp slangs, terms that
Yes,
we have around here, a UFO. Uh,
UFO.
we did have a question about different types of food and what the eaglets eat. We talked a little bit about this before we went live today, but Mary was wondering, I noticed that that at one nest, the parents were bringing mammals to the young to eat and no fish. Well, eaglets have a preference for mammals as they grow rather than fish. Don't most eagles and osprey prefer water meals? And this is something that Amy, but just by tracking, the the types of prey and food that eagles bring back to nests, that we have a pretty clear understanding of what they eat and what they, it's really a question of what they won't eat, but they definitely seem to prefer fish.
It's absolutely a question of what they won't eat, but they show a clear preference for fish. So at all of the nests we watch, 70% or more of what they bring into the nest is fish. That ratio can change a little bit. So like when sucker spawning is on, we see a higher percentage of fish than we do, say, in late June when they're eating more mammals, but they have a strong preference for fish.
Yeah, and one thing, since we're talking about food here, one thing that seems to be a little bit atypical, this specific nest, is that in most nests, what we see right after first eaglet hatches, even right before, as eggs are being laid, kind of like the night before, it seems like the male eagle is bringing food gifts and then stocking the fridge as soon as that first eaglet is hatched. It seems like fish drop, food drop, rabbit drop, all this food coming in, and stocking the fridge is a good description for it. But we typically haven't seen that here. We're seeing some more incubating, a little bit of incubating and feeding activities from Mr. T here, but definitely kind of atypical behavior here at this nest in both years here that we've been watching compared to what we would typically expect to see after hatch.
Yeah, let's talk about Mr. T. So, he's part of the equation here as well. So, the mother, Mrs. T, she's the one who we've been seeing feeding the entirety of our program so far today. We did get several questions about Mr. T. Where is he? What's he been doing? That sort of thing. So I'll kind of read through three of them fairly quickly. I think this will give us a starting point for our conversation, as it looks like Mrs. T here is ready to settle down and brood her young. KBR wrote in and asked, any thoughts on Mr. T? He's not around much. Are there people in the area who can observe any off-cam behavior? Could he have another mate in nest? Linda was wondering, how does the Raptor Resource Project explain Mr. T's behavior of leaving the nest for long periods of time? Other nests, the male is present in engaging with the female in nest activities. And then FE924, should we be concerned about Mr. T seems to not be interested in incubating the nest and leaving Mrs. T on the nest for hours at a time. So I think these are all interesting questions to ponder, John, because it seems like we're seeing, it's quite a different dynamic between the parents here compared to like the Decorah North Nest, which I know a lot of our viewers are familiar with.
Yeah, and I know Amy may have some thoughts on this for sure, but I have to go back and just kind of take a look at just the difference and noticing that there is a difference in how he's behaving. What I've seen and what we've seen with notes and people watching and our citizen scientists, eagle watchers out there is that Mrs. T will bring in some food and he will take it and grab it and move off. And I'm probably guessing that it's a behavior of eagles to take food, and that is taking predominance over the bringing the food in for the eaglets and for Mrs. T and that kind of activity. We've talked a little bit about the possibility of, well, would he be doing what another male eagle might be doing and doing it someplace else? I think that's probably where that question came from, the thought of him possibly grabbing food for another nest or something like that. I think that's probably less likely to be the case here, but I don't know that I have an answer for that, and it would be of interest to try to track and see where he's going when he takes the food out of the nest.
It's also possible that she has had new mates 2 years in a row, and we also blogged about that a little bit on the website, but here's my thoughts on that. So usually eagles will lay eggs later during their first season with a new mate, right? And then they'll drift back. So if we look at mom and dad Decorah, the first time she was with dad, her first egg came on March 5th. That was 2008. So 4 years later, 4 or 5 years later, we've got our first egg on February 17th. And we see that in almost every eagle couple we've watched, with the exception of Mom Decorah and DM2. For whatever reason, she moved later the second year that they were together. But otherwise, it's pretty consistent that they move earlier. They can drift around a little bit, right? Because, weather, environmental stressors, competition can influence that a little bit. But they tend to make small movements. So they might drift 1 or 2 or 3 days later. 8 days, which is what we had at the T nest this year. I thought it was going to go earlier because they had nested together last year, and every other nest we watched was early. But they actually went 8 days later. So that's one thing that makes me think, well, that's something I would expect to see with a new mate, not with an established mate. Everybody has been commenting on the fact that he really doesn't seem that involved in brooding and incubating and feeding, and that he sometimes steals the food, or maybe even often steals the food, right? So one explanation could be that, again, he's a new male, because that's the kind of behavior that we see in new male eagles. And again, like, eagle dads differ. Some of them are great from the get-go. Some of them are a little less great from the get-go, but they all go through that learning period, right? And it looks to me like he's kind of in a learning period. Like, I have the instincts to do this, but I don't really know how to do it and don't really want to. And then we don't have a lot of biometric data from that first year. And the camera we had the first year was not as good as the cameras we have now. But it looks to me, looking at the eye fleck, it's the same female that is right there at 5 o'clock. I'm not so sure with the male, so I'm not going to say, like, yes, it must be a new male, but I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, and I want to correct myself. I was thinking that this was Mrs. T, and now as I'm seeing and watching a little bit more, a little bit whiter head, and I'm thinking that this could be Mr. T instead of Mrs. T. But
feed those babies, Mr. T.
Yeah, so if it is, hey, my apologies. Keep up the good work.
Well, Mr. T is always out there. Just if we don't see him on camera, he's pitying all the fools who invade his territory. I'm a big Mr. T fan, so I'll drop in all sorts of Mr. T references if you want. Uh, but I think KT, our producer behind the scenes, maybe can bring in a clip of both of the parents in the nest. I think this is from earlier today, to give us a perspective on their differences in size and appearance. And also, it's an opportunity for us to talk about personalities too. There's, what John and Amy, you were both talking about experience and maybe how that weighs into their behavior at the nest. But Amy, I think we can't also, I think personality could have just a big influence on the behavior of what we see with parent eagles at the nest, because they're not going to go about it the same way.
Yeah, and certainly we see different personalities at different nests. Those of you who watched the Corey Eagles for a while remember that Mom was famous for what we call Mom on top. Some eagles seem shyer. I personally have wondered if the pecking order they learn in the nest influences them later on in life, right? But they absolutely have different personalities. I do like what we're seeing here. Again, he's interested in the eaglets and he's interested in feeding, but he doesn't seem to quite get how to do it. So if we're lucky enough to get him back again or to have him nest here again next year, we'll be able to see how he matures, grows, and changes, and if he remains more standoffish. And I'm really interested in that. And I do also really like John's idea of getting down there and just seeing where he goes when he goes, because I agree it's less likely, but we can't rule it out without trying to find out, right? But yeah, they absolutely have different personalities.
Yeah, and in this clip, it looks more like what I was mentioning, kind of used to. You can see a fish off in the right corner underneath Mrs. T, and there's obviously a food piece that Mr. T is working on there in this clip, and that was just earlier today, right? So there might be some food that's getting covered up in there too, that it's hard to see.
Well, if you're just tuning in, thanks for joining us today. My name is Mike Fitz with Explore.org. I'm talking with John Howe and Amy Ries from the Raptor Resource Project. We're looking at a mix of live footage and clips from our webcams along the upper Mississippi River. And right now we're back to live footage here of the Trempealeau eagles in the nest. There's been quite a bit of other activity going on on some of the different cameras recently. And I think as, maybe our eaglets get covered up and brooding starts to happen, KT, maybe we could head to the Decorah goose cam right now, because we are on a hatch watch there, and there's been a lot of activity in our geese nests recently. This has been interesting to see. We've seen over the last few weeks or so raccoons visiting the nest, and the geese getting defensive in those situations. This nest though is ready to hatch, right, John? So are the eggs in the nest by the end of this week, if I heard you correctly earlier?
Yeah. So I was just kind of peeking a little bit there before, and it looked like she just sat down on the 5 eggs there. And what I understand is that we're on hatch watch as early as this weekend here. So we'll see what happens. That would be great if it's after Sunday. We're actually thinking about trying to get down there and possibly do some more intensive filming of the jump of the goslings here this year, as we have some other years in the past. But that process happens fairly quickly. Once the hatch starts, all those eggs are most likely going to hatch within a day or two of each other, and then it's only a day or two before the goslings will be in a jump ready mode.
I also want to point out something about this nest. So last year when we were doing camera work, we went up to clean the nest and noticed, because geese don't build nests, that the nest was just kind of a disaster. So we rebuilt the nest and thought, well, maybe eagles will take it, but also maybe geese will take it. Geese took it, but if you look at what she's laying on, that's mulch. So we built a framework of sticks and then filled it up with mulch and leaves and so on and so forth. But that's why that looks that way. That is literally mulch, not the kind that you buy from a store that's dyed, but some we got for free from Decorah Parks and Rec from trees that were shredded. So that's why that looks like that.
Yeah, so probably the first eagle goose nest rebuild that's been occupied, right, Amy?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I guess they took over N1, but that probably doesn't count because they didn't take it over the first year.
Right.
Or do I have that wrong? Is it usually N2B there? And I bet it's usually N2B there. And sorry, we got a lot of nests, and sometimes I get confused.
Yeah, this one has not really had much of any eagle activity in it for at least 4 or 5 years. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a significant difference in the mobility and behavior of, let's say, a gosling, a Canada goose gosling, and a bald eagle chick in the nest. So Amy, this is something else I think that you were writing about it in the Raptor Resource blog recently or previously, but can you just walk us through briefly the difference between like atricial young and precocial young and how that factors into the different adaptations of these young birds and their survival?
Yeah, absolutely. So altricial birds, and that would be an eagle would be an example of this. The young hatch helpless. They're unable to care for themselves. They're unable to feed themselves. They generally either can't see well or their eyes haven't opened yet. So parents provide a lot of care, round the clock, 24/7 care for them. With geese and other water birds, I think Anatidae in general are precocial birds. So they hatch ready to go. Shortly after hatching, they can get up, they can move around, they can feed themselves. In the case of geese and ducks, they can float. So their parents still provide some level of care for them. They show them where food is. They protect them from predators, but they don't need the same kinds of investment that altricial birds do, which is just important to their lifestyle, right? If you think about where they live and how much time they spend in the nest, precocial birds really have to be ready to go. Altricial birds don't to the same degree. Eagles have an unusually long amount of time in the nest, but even altricial birds that don't, like American robins, for example, hatch helpless.
Yeah, with the eagles, I think we end up seeing uh, in a tremendous difference in compared to like some of the small songbirds that we might be more familiar with, because robins, their chicks are out of the nest in like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, they're
that's way different than an eagle, which is in there for what, like 80 days or something.
yeah, it's really interesting, and there's been some work on intelligence in animals that can be a touchy subject, but generally animals that have longer childhoods indicate have more of what we would call intelligence, and also you just seem to have a little bit deeper personalities, right? So I think that counts with eagles, although it's hard to say that the goslings don't have a lot of personality because they're awful cute.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to the goslings hatching in this nest and leaving the nest perhaps as early as this weekend. That happened earlier this week with a different nest, and we do have the clip of that we can bring up, which is it's always exciting and nerve-wracking to see these moments. So whenever you can, KT, if you can bring up the gosling jump, and this one was a bit different because both parents were in the tree; they weren't on the ground calling, and it was it was one of the goslings that decided, hey, the heck with this, I'm gonna get to the ground.
yeah, and the nest that we're looking at is N1. That is the original, uh, you know, famous Decorah eagle nest that started out with American eagle.
They're so cute.
There's one unhatched egg in the nest, and that one was placed there by I don't know if I should call her rogue, but she was an interloper. She was a different female goose came in and dumped an egg there, just kind of hoping, hey, maybe my egg will hatch around the same time as these others. It won't. It'll just be there in the nest. Maybe a raccoon or something will find it a good meal but it was laid much too late to be incubated properly. But the
Yeah, and
geese,
interestingly,
sorry, go ahead, John.
I said, interestingly, earlier we saw another goose up on that nest, and I don't know if it was, on that egg or if it's looking at another adult that's ready to lay its eggs. We've seen some activity, and what almost looked like we were going to have another set of geese up in the eagle nest, but yeah, there was on the live cam. I think there actually is another goose up in that nest, possibly on that other egg there. That would be quite crazy if that thing, I don't think it hasn't been incubated now, so it probably most likely couldn't hatch, but that'd be pretty wild.
One of the common questions that we're seeing, Amy, about sort of like this situation is people again are quite surprised about geese nesting high up on trees. And I was thinking about this more. We talked about it during the last play-by-play, but I was also, again, thinking about this concept of shifting baselines in conservation, and what we determine to be what we think is normal maybe isn't quite normal, because what we've seen over the past 100 years with eagles, certainly in the frequency and the abundance of eagle nests on the landscape, that's not what was normal in North America. But maybe I'll get back to that thought, because as we play this clip here, we're seeing that one gosling moving towards the edge of the nest, and it just decides, hey, I'm done with this, which
And the others are following.
That's what really gets me. This just went so quickly. I remember years where like, suppose the one doesn't jump.
That was a good jump,
right?
too.
Yeah,
That was a
jump.
good jump. It kind of cleared all the branches, and just that gosling was just that was gung ho.
Yeah, that was a champion. We do also get questions about why we don't put padding on the ground or padding on the branches. So to start with, on the branches, we're really kind of limited in what we could do. There's a lot of branches, right? So in that case, we just hope for the best and that they don't hit branches. We have left brush around the bottom of the trees, and the goslings are dropping onto a riverbank. They're also really springy right now. They're mostly made of chondroid bone, and they don't weigh anything. So the chances of them surviving are really high. We tend to lose one every year, and that's just kind of the cost of nesting up high. There's not a lot the geese can do about it, and there's not a lot we can do about it.
Yeah, I saw another question that came up about, or maybe it was mentioned earlier, about do we do anything to trim around the trees? And we typically will trim some of the camera views up by the nest and move some of the branches that are in the way when we're doing work around the nest. I can say on the bottom, both of these eagle nest trees do have metal flashing around them and protection to try to dissuade raccoons and others from trying to climb the trees. And we try to keep the branches and other trees growing away from the base. We don't necessarily do it to clear it out for the jumping goslings, but those are two instances where we do trim and move things away from the tree that could likely help in that situation for less obstacles when they come down from their jump.
Right, right. No, but if there's a branch that's like 20 feet below the nest, we're just probably going to leave it there.
Right.
Thanks for answering that. I know that was something that people had been wondering as well. We did actually get a question about that, about tree trimming and the goslings. This nest too it's also, something it's not close to the ground. Is it? I forget the height of it. Can you remind me of how high it is? It's up there.
John,
N1, I think,
70?
Yeah, N1 is pretty close to 70 feet. And when you drop from the base of the tree down just a couple feet away to the bank of Trout Run Creek, it's even further. Yeah. If they make it further to the north.
Right now, this is live footage from the N1 nest. in Decorah, Iowa. So this is like these were like maybe the location of the very first eagle cams that we had on explore.org here. Currently, we can't see eagles nesting on these cams directly, but we get to see the sort of like eagle adjacent animals that are associated with these nests, like Canada geese taking advantage of a nest that's empty. Again, not something that we're used to because there were just so few bald eagles on the landscape, 50 years ago, even 30 years ago. I mean, there's way more eagles on the landscape right now. So getting back to that thought that I had originally, like our baseline should be lots of eagles on the landscape. It should be lots of birds on the landscape. It shouldn't be just a few of them here and there. And maybe we're going to see more of these situations in the future, Amy, as we have more eagles nesting on the landscape, and that's going to lead to empty nests here and there, and the opportunity for other animals to use them to their advantage.
Yeah, I think eagle nests, when I think of them, I kind of think of them as being sort of like a reef, right? So you're in the ocean. Where's everything going on? There are pelagic fish, there are deep water fish, but there's a lot of stuff going on at the reef because that's where shelter is, that's where food is, that's where everybody's hanging out. An eagle nest provides some of that same sort of structure, right? So if you're a mouse, sure, an eagle might eat you, but it's not a dedicated mouse hunter like an owl or a fox, right? So it's a safe place for it to be. It's going to move in. Little birds will move in. We've seen smaller birds, I want to say English house sparrows, I know, controversial, but we've seen them and other species nesting in the nest. We see birds come in to glean material, food, nesting materials for their nests. So yeah, eagle nests just draw other stuff in because they're a wonderful resource for food and shelter. Also, if you don't insist on running up and down the eagle, as John captured on film one year, if you leave it alone, it'll probably leave you alone.
Yeah. I wonder too, it seemed like the geese have been showing up earlier and earlier, and kind of almost the same time frame when the eagles are laying eggs, the geese are around. And I still got this question as to whether or not the presence of the geese could be altering the whether or not the eagles are nesting in some of these nests.
Right. I think it's a good question. Peregrines have generally, we have early nests and late nests every year, but peregrines have also generally moved their nesting earlier. So and I'm really curious about where some of this is going to go.
A different suite of cameras that we have on explore.org with the Howe Research Institute, one of them that we have is supposed to be for osprey, which aren't owls, but the opportunity's there. Watch an osprey, it's fun, it's interesting. But recently, there's been a similar situation where there's a tower. It was built specifically for osprey, but a goose just decided, hey, this is where I want to nest. And I can't remember the exact year. I'm sure the Explorer audience can let us know in the comments. But it was not too long ago. There was a goose that showed up before the osprey did. The goose claimed that nest as its own and began to lay eggs there. It defended the nest tower from the ospreys that wanted to land there and lay their eggs in it, and the osprey didn't nest there this year. So that seemed to be an obvious example of displacement. And geese, they're not small. The eagle nests are really big, and the geese, body-wise, I think maybe they don't have the wingspan of a bald eagle. Correct me if I'm wrong, but weight-wise, I think they are more substantial than a bald eagle.
It depends on the species, because I forget how many species of Canada or subspecies of Canada geese
right.
there are. There's a fair amount of them. But if you're talking Branna canadensis maxima, so the big boys, I want to say they can be 20 pounds. I don't have that one on the top of my head, but I think that's right. They are very large.
Yeah, certainly like the cackling geese, which is maybe the smallest subspecies of Canada geese in North America. Those ones are pretty petite, but yeah, you get those big ones. They're quite substantial. We have
maybe
about
taking
10
a quick
minutes
peek
left.
12 to
Sorry, go ahead, John.
14 pounds for female and male, and that might be just one of the, this just says Canadian geese, and which is at the same weight and size as an adult eagle, probably even larger for the male than male bald eagle, which is in the 9-pound range.
Right.
And one of the reasons I mentioned that is at that Decorah nest, we've seen our eagles, mom Decorah, dad Decorah, DM2, even hatchery mom and hatchery dad. We've seen them attempt to fish in the overflow retention pond for fish, and the geese will stop them from fishing. And then I've also seen personally, I've watched a goose chasing, I think it was hatchery dad, or no, it would have been DM2 chasing DM2 up in the higher atmosphere, at least a couple hundred feet high, chasing him away from the valley. It was in the goose nesting time frame, or right shortly after, about this time of year.
And if anybody listening has been chased by a goose, you can kind of understand why an eagle would be hesitant in those situations. So I've been there. I don't know if either of you have been there.
Yeah, we used to live next to a farm that had domestic geese, and they were the watch geese and the attack geese. So absolutely. And I was thinking, I initially said 20 pounds on the maxima. That would be an extremely fearsome animal. I'm glad they're only 12 pounds.
Well, with just a few minutes left in our broadcast, let's head, we have a couple of peregrine falcon cams. We're watching, the females basically just incubating the eggs right now. So not a whole lot of activity there. But at the Castle Rock nest, Eyrie, not that long ago, there was an owl that came to visit. So KT, maybe we can bring up that clip. This is live footage right now, but we'll go to some nighttime footage using the infrared and see this bird defend herself and her eggs from that owl. And I'm not sure how long of a clip this is. Hopefully I didn't create it so it's like 10 minutes of lead up time. Sometimes when I make clips, I want to get the context of what's going on beforehand, so we have a little bit of lead time in there. But just resting quite soundly now.
Oh, here we go.
It's alert now, and could have maybe heard the owl.
Yeah, I wonder.
Because I don't hear the audio, but it's alert. And I wondered if the owl was coming up there just because it was a potential for a nest and it was going up there to perch, or if it actually, knows or knew that there were peregrine falcons there. Could have been surprised. Oh, this is occupied, right?
If it's a great horned owl, I would expect it, because their reproductive season is more similar to bald eagles, so I would expect it to have young, but it's possible that it was just like, yeah, I'm in a nest here. I'm sure like eagles, some of them go early and some of them go late.
Or perch for the night, or who knows.
Right.
But this is the nest I think I mentioned. Yeah, look at that.
That's amazing.
That was quick.
Yeah, that's one of the things that just amazes me about so many animals, and especially birds. It's just like their reaction time and how quick they are. That bird reacted faster than I can blink.
And that's not near the engagement that we've seen in the past with the nest box at Great Spirit Bluff, where there was actually, the owl got into the nest box. There was talons, from owl, into the falcon. The falcon, on its back wings with its talons out, trying to defend its young. And this did not get near to the level of the, just connection and actual drawn-out fight that we've seen before. So she did a great job. Getting a little bit
And you're right,
shaky there, holding those wings up.
and you're right, that does seem more like exploration versus a desire to come in and eat or fight.
Yeah.
Because that owl left real quick.
Right. And, I think we've seen that opportunistic activity with the great horned owls going after young peregrine falcons after they're close to fledge, they're calling, they're food begging, the owls hear that. We're definitely not at that point of the season here.
Could we take a look at John's nest really quick at Great Spirit Bluff? I want to see if something is visible there, just to point out to the fans. Okay, you can kind of see it here. So Elaine is a 2-year-old bird, and if you look at her plumage, you'll see her head looks very adult, but she's still got those lovely brown juvenile feathers in the back. This is a really cool thing to see, and you only see it once in a falcon's life. So that's one of the things I like about this site. It's just kind of a delight to see what I think of as that intergrade plumage as she molts her juvenile plumage and molts into adult plumage. It's just beautiful and a cool thing to see. And you can see she's molting from the top down. So those bottom feathers and some of her wing and tail primaries, I don't remember the order, are going to be the last ones to go.
Oh, I hadn't even noticed that until you mentioned it just now. There is a definite gradation. It's kind of closer to like a navy blue, almost purple combination from the head and the shoulders, but going back towards the tips of the wings and the tail, definitely more brown. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I agree. That's very neat observation.
Are we looking at potential hatch on the Great Spirit Bluff nest?
John, do you know off the top of your head? I think we have it on the webpage.
Check real quick here because I got that.
Okay. My notes say the third egg was laid April 2nd.
So May
but I didn't make a note of it. Okay.
Is our estimated hatch date.
Yep, May 5th.
Well, excellent. I think, we're looking forward to that. And we just have like a moment left in our program today, but I want to thank the both of you for being here. It's been a really fun conversation. We got to see some great eagle behavior. We got to visit our falcons. We got to visit with the Canada geese, talk about them and their leap of faith. And we encourage everyone to watch the Canada geese potentially leave the nest this weekend or early next week on that Decorah Goose Cam. We're going to get to see the Trempealeau eagles continue to grow and develop there. And then in maybe 2 weeks or more, we'll have maybe some falcon chicks to talk about. So let me thank my guests as we conclude our program today. First, John Howe, Director of the Raptor Resource Project. Thanks for spending some time with us today and sharing your expertise.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great to be here.
And also from the Raptor Resource Project, Amy Ries, who is just a boatload of knowledge. And I always enjoy talking to you, Amy, so thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. It was really fun to talk to both of you. This was a great time.
And my name is Mike Fitz with explore.org. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, same bird time, same bird channel for another bald eagle play-by-play. And until we talk to you again, never stop learning.